With a few taps on the shoulder, Charles Oliveira lost millions of dollars. It's normal to wonder how shoulder taps could be so costly, but I'll tell you how. First, some background. Oliveira is on an 11-fight win streak in the UFC's toughest division, lightweight. Oliveira set many records during this run, including the most UFC submissions. On top of that, he dominated the best lightweights in his last 3 wins. So many expected his next opponent, Islam Makhachev, to succumb to the Oliveira era at UFC 280. October 22, 2022. Oliveira and Makhachev begin their bout. Round 1. Charles and Islam go back and forth, and the round could be argued for either fighter. Round 2. Charles intensifies the pressure but ends up getting hurt, and to recover, Charles goes to the ground since many of his opponents were afraid of his jiu-jitsu skills, so they let him recover and get back up. But not Makhachev. He followed Charles to the ground and grappled with him. And after a minute or two, Islam has Charles in an arm triangle choke, and it was not looking good for Charles. I can't imagine what happened in Charles' mind during the chokehold. He was deemed the best lightweight, the most lethal Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, and the record finisher. And he was on the ground getting submitted. No matter how hard he tried, he was stuck in a submission. He must have been going through an emotional roller coaster because Charles Oliveira did not want to tap. But he didn't want to get a severe injury. Losing the fight would cost him millions of the champion pay, a position he worked years to get. Yet, Charles wanted to be healthy enough to fight again. So he put his left hand on Islam's shoulder and tapped. It was probably Charles' most difficult decision. Another decision that is almost just as tough to make is letting go of some friendships. This one can be a very touchy subject because it's rarely fun to end relationships of any kind, especially friendships. But it's one of those things that we need to learn to handle in life. Remember this, the way we handle things is a representation of how much we respect ourselves. And allowing poor friendships is a sign of poor self-respect. But before I ramble on, let's get some of the signs of friendships worth letting go. Some of these signs are obvious, and some are not, but that's for you to decide. Signs to take note of are, they rarely initiate contact, they take more than 1 day to respond consistently, it feels like you're putting more effort and enthusiasm into the relationship than them, they don't share the big news with you until much later, they don't invite you out but you do, they bail on plans with you. Obviously there can be a lot more, but I want to point out the ones my friends and I have experienced. And if you see more than one sign consistently, it might be time to part from the friendship. However, this might go against your instinct, and that's normal. We don't want to lose people in our lives, yet I'll tell you why you should ignore that impulse. Father Grosjean once wrote that friends are the second self. So why would you have a second self that doesn't show you the love you deserve? Self-respect is paramount in life, and if you don't have it, your friendships will show that lack of respect for yourself. It's harsh, but it's true. As I said earlier, how you handle the external world indicates your internal self. So if you keep friends that don't put in effort for you, but you do, well, that shows that you don't value yourself. You only want friends that will love and respect you. And if you keep friends that don't show either, then you're communicating to yourself and the world that you don't deserve any of it. Reading so many ancient works, I was surprised to see how they valued friendships. They deemed friendships as one of the most essential things in life. I'm not going to go too deep on this topic, but I get a sense of this underlying philosophy. Friendships represent who you are as an individual, just as much as your actions represent who you are. It's like the corny saying, you're the average of your 5 closest friends. If friendships can have such an effect on us, then why settle for dying friendships? If you're convinced, let's learn when to let them go. Obviously, everyone has to judge for themselves, but a rule of thumb is that if any of the signs I mentioned earlier persist for more than 6 months, then cut your losses. I understand people can be busy and all, but again, if someone loves and respects you, they will make time for you. Of course, you will better understand the situation and friendship, but don't lie to yourself. Some dying friendships might be worth keeping alive due to circumstances, yet most of them are not. And if you don't believe me, try this simple test. Refrain from reaching out and making any effort, and see if that friend reaches out to you. And if they don't pass this test, it's time to accept the friendship as dead. All you have to do is believe that you deserve better. You deserve people who respect you. You deserve people who love you. You deserve people who want to be with you. Once you understand this, you can accept when a friendship has run its time. Yes, you had good times and fun memories, but that was part of a past life. And to get the things you want in life, you need to move on. Again, this isn't easy, but creating a life you enjoy with people who want to be a part of it requires self-respect and the courage to let go. Sometimes these dying friendships are hard to let go of, especially if we've mischaracterized them. What about the friends we don't need to talk to all the time? These are special friendships. You can go years without talking, but pick up right where you left off, and are enthusiastic about hanging out when feasible. As unique as these are, they are weird. They are not dying friendships, but due to its weird dynamic, the friends don't have to be constantly engaged with each other. However, these types of friendships are rare, and this is not the norm for friendships in general. The critical difference between these weird friendships and dying ones is the enthusiasm present. In dying friendships, you rarely feel the enthusiasm from the other person, but in the weird one, they are enthusiastic about linking up whenever they can. I have experience with both types of friendships, and to show you I know what I'm talking about, let's talk about my experience of a friendship that died. I met Richard when I went to business school. Richard was a cool guy. He was a varsity athlete, charismatic, and fun to be around. Although we came from different backgrounds, we clicked. It was such a great friendship. We had long talks, he invited me out, and we just had great times. I was there for him when his long-term girlfriend broke up with him, and he was there for me when I needed it. However, as Richard found his career and new girlfriend, we naturally hung out less. We texted back and forth, but one thing I noticed was how I usually initiated the text. And when I moved across the country, I would check in on him and arrange phone calls every few months, but he never initiated. And whenever we did book calls, it was for 30 minutes in his tight schedule. Although the signs of the dying friendship were there, I kept making an effort. But then came the final nail in the coffin. Richard told me about his wedding a year in advance, and he never invited me. That hurt. I understand that he may not have had enough tables or seating because of post-COVID, but in our last conversation, I mentioned his wedding, and he didn't even say he was not inviting me. I would have accepted it if he had given me any excuse or anything, but he didn't. And I still didn't accept that the friendship had died until my wife pointed out how he didn't even mention the wedding in our chat or an invite. At that point, I realized that my friendship with Richard had ended. So a day before his wedding, I sent him well wishes and I deleted his number. He has yet to reach out since. It was challenging and sad, but necessary, because I only want people in my life who love and respect me. And to be honest, having those types of people around me already has made the loss of Richard less hurtful. With that Oscar-deserving story, you want to avoid the mistake I made during my friendship with Richard. This is a simple mistake to fall in, because we don't want to accept that the friendship is dying. It's tough letting go sometimes. Before I let go of Richard, I tried hard to keep the friendship alive, even though it was all me doing the heavy lifting. To avoid this mistake, you have to remind yourself that you deserve better. As I said earlier in this video, you deserve people who respect you. You deserve people who love you. You deserve people who want to be with you. We have to ingrain this in our heads. Or if we're having trouble with it, we gotta go see a therapist, because we have to be the ones to enact this in our lives. Otherwise, we'll have dying friendships that are meaningless. It's not easy, but you must remember that you deserve better. And if people aren't meeting your standards for being a friend, you let them go. And to make sure I'm meeting your standards for this video, I'll summarize. Signs of a dying friendship are plenty, but more than one consistent sign at a time might tell you the friendship is dead. To keep dying friendships is an indication of little self-respect. A rule of thumb: any of the signs as mentioned earlier, persisting for more than 6 months is a good indication to let the friendship go. The best way to accept dead friendships is to understand that you deserve better. Friendships that don't need constant interactions are different than dying friendships. The former is rare, so don't go confusing dying friendships for them. Trying to rekindle dead friendships is a mistake that wastes time and energy. Need to accept that you deserve better to avoid this mistake. Hopefully this was an okay subject, but I wanted to show you how to navigate the things we will most likely face, especially on friendship matters, a neglected topic in much personal development content. If we can't handle things like friends, how can we expect to handle other types of relationships? It's not easy, and it does come at a price. But like Charles Oliveira, We must give ourselves a chance for the future. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thank you again for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, comment, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my newsletter, and guys, remember, you're not just any type of nerd, you're a charismatic nerd.